For the past few weeks, we have had so much granola in this house. I have made so much granola. Everybody who's come into this house have had to taste all the granolas so I could get their opinions on it because I am trying to make the perfect granola recipe for me. Or 2 weeks ago, I made 3 different types of granola from 3 famous chefs, and their recipes turned out so good. Each one was fantastic in their own way. I wanted to use those recipes as inspiration to make my own granola recipe. I thought this would be done so quickly. I made 4 different versions of granola, and I had people test it out because I wanted to get their feedback so I could use the inspiration of those famous chefs and the feedback from my friends. This all started at the end of last Christmas season in 2024. I tried making homemade gifts, and I made some and I didn't make others. I think I was a little overly ambitious, and what wound up happening is I wasn't prepared. And it is mid-February of 2025, so I have 10 and a half months to go until Christmas time, and I wanted to get together some recipes that I could use during that time to make homemade gifts because I think those are so fun. Okay, so here was the plan. The criteria for a good homemade Christmas gift is, first, it needs to be tasty. Second thing is, I want whatever I make to be able to last on the shelf, in the fridge, or in the freezer for a while. The thought is that during Christmas time, you receive lots of gifts, and many of them are food-related gifts, and you're kind of inundated with all these sweet treats. So it would be nice to have something that you wouldn't feel pressured to eat in December, and maybe you can save until January or February when you would like something sweet again. Number 3, I want it to be something unique, but not so unique that people are kind of put off by it, but unique enough that you couldn't buy it in the grocery store. I have some friends that love the strangest foods, and they're very adventurous eaters. Other friends, they like the most simple, familiar, or basic types of foods. So I wanted to make something that hopefully I could give to all of them, something that's interesting enough that the people who like exotic things might like it, and that's familiar enough that it won't be too much for people who just don't like that type of food. Number 4, I want it to be something that's relatively easy to make because I don't want to be laboring over it unnecessarily. I tried 4 different versions of my own granola with a few different variations and techniques here or there to see what was going to be the best fit for my recipe. It's going to be Christmas 2025 granola. My first version used Alton Brown's granola recipe as the base, and then I added elements from Gordon Ramsay's granola recipe with the puff rice and the flaxseed, and elements from Chef John's chocolate granola recipe like the cocoa powder and the cayenne pepper. I also added chia seeds, and I substituted dried cherries for the raisins, substituted coconut oil for the vegetable oil, and omitted the brown sugar. I reviewed those recipes in the last video if you want a more thorough breakdown of what they were like. Version number 1, one of the ways that somebody described it is it's delicate and crisp, not hard and crunchy, and I like that part of it. When I was looking at this recipe, I was thinking it would be nice if there was more color variation. So for the second recipe, I stuck with most of the same ingredients, but I changed a few things around. The difference in this version is more the order of operations and not really the ingredients. Speaking of math, for the first 2 recipes, I figured I would make a quarter of the recipe so we didn't have too much at one time. Trying to figure out a quarter of 3/4 of a teaspoon was making my head hurt. I failed math way too much to take this on, so the next recipes were just full recipes. I mixed oil, syrup, salt, cocoa powder together first, and then I added the puff rice. I hoped that it would darken the rice for contrast. It didn't, and it looked like and tasted like the other recipe a lot. recipe number 2. The difference is I had, which one is which? For recipe number 2, I chopped up the cherries and the cashews, and I put in the puffed rice mixed with the oil and the syrup first to see if I could just color the puffed rice. It didn't really change the color. You could see they look pretty similar. I began by mixing all the ingredients plus pumpkin seeds for color, except for the fruit and nuts, and combining them all and putting them on a tray. I used the back of the spatula to press the granola mixture down on the tray to see if that would form clumps. Next, I mixed the cocoa powder with the nuts separately in a bowl so I could just color these, again trying to add contrast. I needed something to make the powder stick, so I added syrup and mixed and baked them separately. When they were done baking, they turned into crunchy clusters that needed to be broken apart. After the nut clusters finished baking and cooling, I broke them apart and mixed them in with the rest of the granola. And lastly, I added the fruit. In this case, I used whole chopped almonds, which was different than the slivered almonds and a little bit harder in texture. As I kept going, I was thinking maybe it'd be nice to have something with a little bit more contrast. So I made variation number 3. And this one has more contrast. And I was kind of surprised that it didn't make it any prettier with more contrast. So the way I got contrast was I took the nuts with the maple syrup and the honey and the cocoa powder, and I mixed them all together and baked them a little bit separately on the tray. I also added raisins and craisins to this. One of my friends who tried it said there's a lot going on here. I thought that was a really good description. There was a lot going on here. Again, good. I'll be very happy with it. But the 4th one, the final one, is the one that I like the best. For my final version, I decided that those nut clusters and a variety of fruit wasn't what I was looking for, so I went back in the direction of the first 2 recipes. I was going to be adding a little bit more of the nuts, so I decided to add a little bit more of the maple syrup to add additional sweetness. I chose to use slivered almonds again, instead of the whole chopped almonds that I used for version 3. I think that it has a better texture and they weren't so hard and crunchy. However, I didn't have enough slivered almonds and cashews, so I decided to supplement what I needed with pecans that I chopped up. I think that was a great choice because when they're baked, they have a really nice, crispy and light texture. I did the flax seeds and chia seeds with the maple syrup and coconut oil. I mixed them all together because I wanted them to stick a little bit better. So some of these, I don't know if you could tell, but the chia seeds kind of just fell off a little bit. With these, the chia seeds kind of just got shaken to the bottom, at least most of them did. But with this version, when I mixed them all together, they stuck a little bit better. So something else I did differently is I didn't mix them when they were on the tray. I just left them as is. And you can see, like, here's a good example of like a little cluster. There it is. Here's an example of a little cluster. And the chia seeds and the flax seeds, they just stuck a little bit better. But what's good about this is when you bite into it, it's not hard and crunchy like a lot of store-bought granola is. So good. Really good. I thought I was going to love the cherries with it, and the cherries were good. But I actually wound up preferring craisins. So the final recipe has craisins and not cherries, and it has kind of little clusters, and not all of it's clustered. And the more you scoop it around on the pan, it will break apart. 4 tries later, and this is the recipe I went with. I'm so happy with how it turned out. Nice, crispy, not hard, flavorful, not too sweet. This is 2025's Christmas gift. Mission complete.